like the other famous Sam on the internet, Sam Bankman-Fried seems to be getting away with it. Sam Bankman-Fried, for those of you who don't know, was a tech crypto CEO of the company FTX, who were a crypto exchange platform which collapsed last month, and it seems that he's been involved in some rather dodgy dealings, and wouldn't you be surprised that it involves the Democrats? Before I go any further, because all of this is always related to left-wing, we're often dunking on left-wingers, happily now, the recent contemplations that Josh and I did showed that science itself actually proves that leftists are bad people. And now we can see little Dr. Shapiro there with his anti-communist clipboard telling everybody that facts and logic means that leftists are bad people. So if you want more information there, check it out. There are also clips of that on our sister channel, lotus.com, that you can check out if you're not sure about it yet before you've subscribed. So go check that out. Anyway, so we covered this a few weeks ago. Dan was the one who covered this, and Dan is the specialist in this, so if I get any of the information wrong, I do apologise. I've tried to get as much information from Dan as possible regarding this. So I'll recap a little bit of the information that was gone over in here. So FTX, as I said, we're a crypto exchange platform. The CEO was Sam Bankman-Fried, who was also the owner who started it. He also owned and started Alameda Research, who made investments and were kind of a crypto hedge fund. They were run separately by a CEO called Christine, I've forgotten her name, Ellison something or other. People thought FTX was doing great, and Sam Bankman-Fried himself, who I'll refer to from now on as SBF, as everybody else does, was a huge Democratic donor, the second biggest in the US behind Soros, and then during the midterms of the most recent elections, he was their biggest donor. Economic downturns that have been going on since his party of donation choice decided to take over the economy meant that the company had basically collapsed, but they were hiding it for about 6 months until some leaks from the owner of another crypto exchange company called Binance came out that revealed that they were basically bankrupt. The company started collapsing, and then when people were trying to withdraw their funds in all of the chaos that goes when a company like that collapses, because people were investing in crypto as a way to try and save money, to get involved in trades, it was a way to try and, safely hedge your money, because you hear that FTX is the biggest crypto platform out there. Everything is safe and fantastic with them. They've got brilliant, double thumbs up from everybody. So wonderful. I'll just save it with them. Suddenly starts to collapse. They start trying pulling their funds out. Customers find they can't access their funds, and an insider came out and said that the customer wallets were being drained by an insider. So it seems that an insider, possibly SBF himself, likely SBF himself, was stealing the money for himself. And then it came out as well that Sam, right before all this happened, was trying to set up a super PAC that could receive donations from the Democrats for climate causes, and then presumably those donations from the Democrats could then be filtered straight back into Democratic campaign funds. Yeah. Very interesting. And FTX were a platform used to send donations over to Ukraine as well. So there is a rumour, a quite strong rumour, that the Dems were donating money to Ukraine. Obviously, they've been sending off these billions and billions and billions of dollars over to Ukraine since the war start. So they were donating through FTX, and then Zelensky was investing the money back either through Alameda or FTX themselves, and it was ending straight back up in the Dems' pockets. Nice little scheme if you can set it up. He was in a relationship, Sam was, with the CEO of Alameda, who's that Christine woman, his other organization, and she was also the daughter of a lecturer that he knew at MIT, where he went and studied, where he had also met and knew the head of the SEC, one of the biggest financial regulators in America. So there was a massively incestuous relationship between all of these different sectors: academics, finance, regulators, you name it, they were involved. Oh, and also he'd been to events with the Clintons and Tony Blair, as you would expect.
Very diverse group of people.
He had a fantastically diverse portfolio. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And then something else funny came out about it was that he had a house in the Bahamas, a $16.4 million house in the Bahamas that was supposedly meant for FTX staff, that was also signed up under his parents' name. He definitely wasn't hoping that he could just inherit that down the line or anything. No, this is a complete write-off. It's for the staff. It's for the business. Don't worry about it, guys. And something even funnier came out about the obvious fraud that was going on off in FTX, because Sam has been going on a bit of an apology tour recently to try and clear his name of any wrongdoing. Everything bad that happened with FTX was just down to his bad decision making. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't malicious. He just desperately wanted to do the right thing. And there was this amusing clip that came out, and Wall Street Silver has been really good on this, so if you want more updates, follow Wall Street Silver. He said, here's the part where SBF admitted on a Twitter space that when customers were buying and selling Bitcoin on FTX, they weren't buying Bitcoin. They were just getting a fake entry in their account saying that they had bought Bitcoin. So just play this clip just to confirm
suspicious.
Because that makes sense as to why there were no more Bitcoin to withdraw, where customers like that I know had Bitcoin balances, because those Bitcoin actually didn't exist, because it was just notional. You were just letting us buy notional tokens that didn't actually really exist.
Yeah, or another way of phrasing that.
Because otherwise you would have had to have the USDC somewhere.
Right. Yeah. I believe that what you're saying is in fact part of what happened.
Yeah, so if you were using FTX to trade Bitcoin, you didn't actually have any Bitcoin. All that happened was he was taking your money, saying you've got Bitcoin, and then doing whatever, because it also turned out that about half of the money that FTX was trading in had been invested in projects for Alameda, his research company, which shouldn't have had any access to that money, especially given that in a lot of the interviews that he's given since then, he's come out and saying that I had nothing to do with Alameda. It was all this Christine woman. I had nothing to do. I had no idea of what any of the decisions were going on there. And quite soon after all of this started to come out, a Vox journalist got in touch with him via Twitter DMs. And it seems that SBF thought that this was just going to be some kind of, just private conversation. But the journalist, being a journalist, decided to leak the whole thing and write an article about it. And so it starts off with a disclosure, because Sam has his hands in literally every pie that you can think of. This August, Bankman-Fried's philanthropic family foundation, Building a Stronger Future, awarded Vox's Future Perfect a grant for 2023 reporting project. That project is now on pause. Big surprise. I wonder if the money dried up. Before his empire collapsed, Fried was actively engaged in lobbying in Washington for a regulatory framework for cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, everybody remember, was supposed to be set up to be purely decentralized. It was supposed to be set up as something that was away from government hands, and now the government is trying to get its greedy little paws all over it. And you can be sure with somebody like SBF in charge of trying to organize all of this, whatever regulations would end up be putting in place would be absolutely beneficial to FTX and FTX alone. It would screw over all the other competitors, I'm certain. Many crypto CEOs, like Bankman-Fried's nemesis Binance CEO CZ Zhao, are openly skeptical of government regulation. Fried had largely avoided criticizing regulators, on the other hand. In our conversation, he dismissed their role. He basically is acknowledging in this conversation that, you just got to go jump through the hoops. And even then, I reckon he's still being a little bit coy, because the likelihood is he's like, well, you got to jump through these hoops so you can get the benefits from them. He characterized his past conciliatory statements, like when he said just last month that some amount of crypto regulation would be definitively good, as a little more than PR. In doing so, he all but confirmed the views of critics who have argued that his overtures to Washington were more about image than substance. At one point in these messages, he just says right there, F the regulators. That kind of based, not going to lie, kind of based, but also he's a scumbag. So I return to those questions in our Twitter conversation, those now well-considered ideas about balancing ethical imperatives, and this is talking about all of the philanthropy he does, and even ESG. Scroll up for a second there, John, for me. ESG, he talks about how ESG has been perverted beyond recognition, basically the whole woke capitalism idea that they're only doing it so that they can maintain loans and good scores from hedge funds like BlackRock.
Has he made any donations to human rights groups?
I'm sure he's made millions upon millions of dollars of donations to those sorts of groups. He's probably on the board of most of them.
We should see also whether he has donated to previously the watchdog groups we were talking about previously.
Maybe, he probably has, to be honest. So these ethical imperatives, he said it's not true really. He continued to insist that FTX did not use directly any money in the way that the people have suggested, either being fraudulent borrowing. He said that Alameda, which he also owns, had borrowed far more money from FTX's balance sheets for investments than he had realized. Being an owner and CEO of FTX and owner of Alameda, you'd think that he would know about such things if there were gigantic transfers of billions of dollars between these two organizations. But apparently, what a goofy guy. He just wasn't keeping track. I guess he was just feeling really sleepy that day. And it eventually left FTX vulnerable to the crypto equivalent of a bank run. Why didn't Bankman-Fried realize what was happening until it's too late? Sometimes life creeps up on you, he said. Just a simple goof, guys. It's just one of those things that could happen to anybody. When you're trading in billions of dollars and you just lose track of a couple 12 billion or so, 32 billion. Who wants to squint over the numbers, guys? It's ridiculous. The man's entire defense in his apology tour has just been like, well, I guess I just wasn't keeping track.
I think that shows complete indifference to the public and the people he got money from.
Well, the funny thing is I've seen some people say that, the public's not going to care about this. The only people who are going to listen to what you're saying are judges and members of the judiciary. And it's like, those are the only people who need to listen.
But how are they not going to care about it if their money has been taken away?
Well, of course, the public really desperately want their money back. Yeah. He doesn't really care that much, it seems. He has said that in some interviews that he can make people financially solvent again on the US side. He says, we've still got all the money we need to make people solvent on the US side, but all those foreign people who invested in the organization, screw them. Nothing we can do about them. And we can see here the general media response is summed up from this one. Bankman-Fried admits we kind of lost track, with this person saying, no, SBF did not F up big. He committed fraud. Financial Times, can you get it? And you think most people would be aching to rake a billionaire over the coals over such a thing. Instead, what we get is this. The next link was a New York Times Deal Book Summit where they did an hour-long interview with SBF where the interviewer threw out the most softball questions imaginable, where he kind of pushed him a little bit. He was like, don't you think you've kind of got a responsibility to those people whose money you took from them? And he was like, yeah, it's really bad. I think we can make it solvent on the US side. And the guy's like, well, sounds good to me. All right, fantastic. He also admits to a few weird things here, including Alameda made a $1.15 billion investment into an organization called Genesis Digital Assets, despite SBF previously having claimed to have no involvement in the running. He would have had to know that this was happening, given that, that's a big amount of money that Alameda is transferring. But he also served on the board of Genesis Digital Assets. So claiming to have nothing to do with this gigantic transfer of money from one organization I own to one organization I'm on the board of. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So in this interview, it's very clear that he can't really get out of this. So he just confirms that, yeah, okay, I did know about this investment. They even have a little joke about it on stage. He's like, because he's over video call, they have a little bit of laugh about it. It's just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting to see.
He said it. He kind of lost track.
Yeah, I just kind of lost track of it, bro.
He had a hangover and saw something.
Yeah, it's like when you lend a friend a $5, except that friend is you. When you do that to yourself, basically he'd found the equivalent of a tenner in his pocket from the night before. He was really chuffed about it, I tell you. And it's very telling, some of the other reactions. So here's one of the reactions we can see. This is when when the interviewer mentioned funds were suspiciously transferred from FTX after the bankruptcy. That kind of evil, impish grin that he does there, like I did do that, didn't I? Oh, I can't say that out loud. Like I said, he also mentioned that basically foreign investments don't matter because we can get if you go to the next one, John, please. Yeah, there's money to pay US-based FTX users. There's no reason for the US government to investigate me. Who cares about non-US users who've lost everything? Likely a coordinated strategy with major recipients of SBF donations in the US government, which is absolutely true, because if we carry on, here's his official statement about it. When I filed, I'm fairly sure FTX US was solvent and that all US customers could be made whole. To my knowledge, it still is today. I was expecting that to happen. I'm surprised that he's still playing the fool. It's ridiculous. I was expecting this to. I'm surprised it hasn't yet. Can you guys believe that you've not got your money back yet? What a strange coincidence. Anyway, on with my media apology tour. We've got more media obfuscation, where this one, Vice, If you scroll down just so we can see the full headline. No, scroll up, please, John. Yeah. Sam Bankman-Fried is trying to find the guy who did this. You know, who did this? He's had all mirrors removed from all buildings he occupies. He's wandering around going, who did this? He's got his little Davy Crockett hat on. He's smoking a pipe. We can get to the bottom of this. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the Wall Street Silver is absolutely right here. I can't take it anymore. It's like O.J. Simpson vowing to find the real killer. Can you imagine? You know, 10 years from now, Sam Bankman is going to be writing a book called If I Stole the Money. Yeah. That's what he's going to be doing. It's ridiculous. And then, of course, we have the the House of Representatives hearings about the crypto regulation and what's going on there. And this article has some good information regarding that I'll go through. Less than a month after the stunning collapse of FTX, Congress held its first hearing on Thursday on what Washington should do amid the fallout. Senators called for swift legislative action to safeguard consumers, but many disagreements still exist over the shape of those actions. Debates will likely continue for months on how exactly crypto should be regulated in the US. As I mentioned, the whole point of crypto was it would be decentralized, deregulated, in the power of the people. People like Sam came, screwed that whole system up because sadly it seems that you can't have nice things anymore. And now everybody's going to be screwed over as a result of it. The hearing was hosted by the Senate Agricultural Committee and didn't feature the person at the center of the FTX saga, SBF, who is expected to testify at a House hearing later this month. And I think it may be on the 13th. The only person invited to testify on Thursday was Rostin Benham, the chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, an agency that regulates derivative markets and is among those lawmakers are considering tasking with reining in the freewheeling world of cryptocurrency. Benham pressed the Senate to give his agency oversight of most crypto markets, calling for comprehensive market regulation. However, Benham's testimony was complicated by his close working relationship with Bankman-Fried over the last year. He's been everywhere. He said in the interview that he did with the New York Times on the Deal Book Summit that he'd spent thousands and thousands of hours in Washington lobbying for regulation. So every single person involved in this, in my eyes, is corrupted, is completely compromised by the fact that they probably have a close relationship with him, like this guy does. And the bill that Benham and other senators advocated for on Thursday was the same one championed by Bankman himself.
He's the proof of the claim that it is who you know that is most important.
It really is.
What you do, yeah.
And it's also a proof that if you've got billions of dollars, you can just buy your way into Washington. At that moment, the CFTC is jockeying for regulatory control over crypto with the Security Exchange Commission, and which is the SEC, and other agencies. The hearing was the first in a series of congressional meetings about FTX. The House Financial Services Committee will hold a meeting on its collapse on December 13th and expects Bankman-Fried to testify there. As Congress mulls over whether to pass legislation, federal agencies, including the CFTC and SEC and the Department of Justice, DOJ, have reportedly launched investigations of FTX, which presumably will either go nowhere or end up in a very public, very performative slap on the wrist and a hefty fine, which will probably make up for maybe 50% of SBF's total donations to the Democratic Party this year. Interesting. And and funnily enough as well, Maxine Waters, our favourite, the one who in mid-2020 and I think last year as well was calling for fires and riots in the streets and how Whitey needs to be taken down a peg, will be presiding over the hearing on December 13th. And something tells me she's not going to give him a hard time, guys. I'm sorry to break it to you. I don't think that she's going to be grilling him particularly hard when she's tagging him on Twitter saying, "We appreciate you've been candid in your discussions about what happened. Your willingness to talk to the public will help the company's customers, investors, and others. To that end, we would welcome your participation in our hearing on the 13th. And Rita Panahi at the bottom there just saying, "Are you drunk, insane, or complicit? Pick one." Probably all three, to be perfectly honest. And it's very, very dangerous what's going on here. Because, like I said, anybody saying, oh, the public's not going to listen to this, that's the point. The public don't need to listen to this. They don't need to have their money given back to them. The only people who need to hear it are the people who are going to be in charge of the consequences he face. And he's not really going to face any consequences, guys. Representative Waters, this is from SBF in response on the House Committee on Financial Services. Once I have finished learning and reviewing what happened, I would like to feel it was my duty to appear before the committee and explain. I'm not sure that will happen by the 13th, but when it does, I will testify. So he's setting his own deadlines. What other hearing like this would you not be expected to show up? He's like, I could make it. Maybe. You're in the crossfire. You're in the crosshairs.
He doesn't act like he thinks he is.
No, he really doesn't. And
he thinks he's going to get away with it.
And it's no surprise that he does, because there's nothing to see here, folks. All we've got here is Benny Johnson last month posting a video from inside the courtrooms of Maxine Waters blowing him a kiss. This is after the FTX collapse, by the way. So very interesting that this is just how they treat it. Okay, I see her as a completely impartial bystander in this whole scenario. There is only one thing that could really derail the whole thing, though, which is that there is a possible double cross in the works, which is, that's her name, Caroline, I think her surname was Ellison. Caroline Ellison, the Alameda CEO, is reportedly in New York City right now. She was in Hong Kong when this all began. The only reason to come back and resist arrest is that she already has an immunity deal to testify against SBF. They give the best deal to the first one who spills the beans, just my opinion, so that's Wall Street Silver, but you've got to remember as well that in just claiming I had nothing to do with this, I had no idea, he's basically been throwing her under the bus as the CEO of Alameda the whole time. So, despite the fact they were going out, once again, it's a big thing, scenario. Despite the fact that they were going out, it seems that he's tried to throw her under the bus, and she might have shown up to throw him under the bus, because there's also rumours that she has hired one of the Clinton lawyers. So she is going to have a lot of power behind her if she's done that as well. So, but barring a complete double cross, we can only assume that Sam Bankman-Fried has been getting lessons from Sam Hyde, because he just keeps getting away with it. I hope you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, and I hope you're all having a very jolly time right now. If you'd like to find more from us, you can go to our website, lotuseaters.com, and subscribe to gain access to all of our premium content. We do also have some freemium content available at the moment, including this, the UK's left-wing literature curriculum, where Connor and Bo take a look at what's going on with the left-wing curriculum in English classes all across the UK. And if you'd like to know more about what Bo gets up to, you can follow him at Getter at BoDade. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again soon.